What a start to Friday. I was awakened by the pleasure they gave me. After a few minutes of pleasure, Jeanette, my wife of 3 years, moved upstairs and we began to make love. A good start to the day. Life is good. That's all you'll get until Monday. Are you afraid that others will be jealous when they hear your cries of joy? Something like that. Well, in that case, you won't get anything until Monday either. This made her chuckle and roll her eyes. And that's how our Friday began. We both took the day off. Jeanette also took Monday off. I didn't have many vacation days left, so we were going to go back Sunday night, so I could go to work on Monday. We were heading to the mountains for a weekend of skiing. Jeanette's best friend, Tatiana, and her husband, Steve, rented a cabin with us 5 miles from the ski resort. Last year, we already made the same trip with them. Another couple was scheduled to join us on Saturday. Tatiana was a witness at Jeanette's wedding, and vice versa. Our weddings were a month apart. Steve was a typical high school jock with no talent to go further. He seems to only be able to talk about his glory days. I can probably hit most of his home runs, game-winning drives, and touchdowns. For some reason, Jeanette listens to every story he tells. Perhaps it's because she was also an athlete in school. She and Tatiana were starting players on the volleyball and basketball teams. They have the same figure, both approaching 6 slender feet tall. Probably because Tatiana had heard these stories many more times than I had, she simply stared into space as Steve told his stories. This does not mean that I did not participate in school sports activities. I was the starting point guard on the junior varsity team 3 years in a row. High school students are not allowed to play on the junior team, so I focused on college prep classes. Even though Steve has a degree, I would never hire him. In fact, all 4 of us have degrees. I'm 10 credits away from finishing my master's degree. I still need to write my thesis, and this may delay the process. According to my mentor, I should plan something around 60 pages. I have made a plan, but it will be a challenge to my abilities. As it should be, probably. Having a master's degree says something to employers. Jeanette snapped, "Make sure you put your golf clubs away so we have room for groceries." "Yes, sir. Anything else, sir?" Ridiculous. Just do it. I headed to the garage. As the garage door slowly rose, the light flickered underneath my car. Since I changed the oil yesterday, I thought I'd check it out. I grabbed the folded tarp, unfolded it, and threw it onto the concrete floor. Crouching down on my knees, I saw a few drops under the oil pan. Having dipped my finger in them, I had no doubt that it was oil. How difficult is it to make sure the oil pan drain plug is tight? Apparently, it is much more difficult than I thought. Crawling away from the car, I grabbed my set of keys and crawled back. Of course, I tightened the bolt half a turn. It was now pulled tight. Damn, I forgot the paper towel. I climbed out and climbed back in again, and the problem was fixed. I folded up the tarp and went inside to wash my hands. "Are you ready to go?" "Almost. Let me wash myself first." "What have you gotten yourself into?" They didn't tighten the oil pan bolt again. They may be cheap, but they need to be monitored. "Hurry up, or we'll be late." "Yes, sir." This earned her a stern look with pursed lips. We met Tatiana and Steve at a grocery store not far from the cabin, if 10 miles can be called close. You'd think we were going to stay for a month. 2 full carts with products for all occasions. Opening the trunk, I saw my golf clubs. "Damn, Dale, I told you to take them away." They probably came back while I wasn't looking. This earned her another stern, pursed-lipped look. The back seat was filled with sleeping bags and suitcases. They were joined by a mishmash of food items. Only a few bags fit in the trunk. Jeanette was silent on the last stretch of the way to the cabin. When we arrived at the lodge, we began unloading the cars. I started in our back seat. After several flights, Tatiana and I headed back to our cars. We walked past Jeanette and Steve with our hands full. "Looks like you're in your last batch. See you inside." Tatiana took the last bag of groceries from her car. I heard her trunk slam. On one of the previous flights, several items attempted to escape. Having stopped to pick them up, I fell a little behind Tatiana when I got to my car. My trunk was open, and there were 2 bags left in there. In the distance, we heard a very loud explosion. At this time of year, especially after snow, rain, and more snow, the highway department carries out avalanche control work. This usually involves closing a road and then strategically placing explosives to create a controlled avalanche. The highway department is not known for selecting the best graduates for the job. Tatiana and I looked at the mountain and saw the beginning of a small avalanche. I've seen this twice before. They usually go away within 10 seconds and then stop. This time it was different. What started out as a small stream about 20 feet wide now grew to several hundred feet. We heard her approaching like an approaching train. Damn, she's coming towards us. In the car, in the car. Slamming the trunk, I jumped into the driver's seat, and Tatiana climbed into the passenger seat. The noise of the approaching avalanche was terrible. We both watched in horror as the mountain of snow approached. Prepare to strike. I pressed my head against the steering wheel. Tatiana curled up into a ball, raising her knees to her chest. The impact threw my car like a puck on ice. We hit something hard a few seconds later, although it seemed like it lasted a full minute. At some point, I heard Tatiana scream, like a teenager on a roller coaster on the first descent. My heart almost broke. The pulse was above 100. My head hurts. It was completely dark. I'm alive. Are you okay, Tatiana? I think so. My head hurts a little. I hit the dashboard really hard. I think we're tilted. I agree, your side is higher than mine. I found the ceiling light switch and turned it on. Voila, let there be light. Tatiana said worriedly, you have blood above your right eye. Check me out. Nice hair, slender, sweet smile. What exactly should I check? Laughing, I guess I didn't bleed. At least where I can see, I winked. Tatiana blushed. We sat quietly for several minutes. I tried to open my door, but we were tightly squeezed. In front to the right, there was a large dark space without snow. The light was weak, but it seemed as if several large trees had made a roof over us. If we can get into this hole, we will have enough oxygen for several days. We'll have to turn on the fan to circulate the carbon dioxide. It is not the lack of oxygen that kills, but the increased level of CO2. Did you happen to take the last bag of groceries? Tatiana shook her head and asked, do you think Steve and Jeanette survived? I don't know. I've never seen houses survive avalanches of this magnitude. My heart sank. What if Jeanette didn't survive? My eyes flickered and I wiped away a few tears. Looking at Tatiana, I saw that she was doing the same. Tatiana thought, I guess we haven't completely survived yet, right? Not until we breathe that fresh air. I wonder if anyone will realize we're buried. I pressed the horn. It worked. At least we have a way to signal the rescuers. Every hour or so, or when we hear something, we'll signal. After an hour of almost complete silence, Tatiana announced, I don't want to die. I agree. I didn't know that today was my last day on Earth. Even though we have no contact, I'm going to jot down some messages for the ones I love to let them know how much I love them. What a great idea. It's a shame I don't have my phone with me. I would do the same thing. You can use my phone. I wrote for about 10 minutes until emotions overwhelmed me. Handing the phone to Tatiana, she experienced the same feelings. We passed the phone back and forth for the next 2 hours. Each of us composed several messages from the other world. We didn't hear anything. The battery held up well, but we now turned off the lights when we rested. I'm cold, Tatiana said excitedly. I wish we'd emptied the trunk first. The sleeping bags would have been in the back seat. Hey, I have golf clubs in the trunk. There's a way to get into the trunk by lowering the back seats. I've got winter gloves and a rain suit there. I think there is, and windbreakers. Climbing into the back seat, I found the release lever. He was still working. Using my phone for light, I stuck my head in the trunk. After a minute, I pulled out gloves, hats, jackets, and a pair of rain pants. I also grabbed the last 2 bags of groceries. Yummy celery sticks, frozen cauliflower, and chips were the main course. We won't die of hunger. Remembering that I had several energy drinks in my golf bag, I reached into the trunk again. When I returned, I couldn't help but laugh when I saw Tatiana in golf equipment. Warmer? Yeah, that really helps. Would you like a celery stick? If it's not too difficult, I'll make an exception for you. I stretched out in the back seat and put on the remaining golf gear. Tatiana lowered the passenger seat as far as possible. It's a pity that we don't have a blanket, Tatiana said. Hey, I have little towels that I use to clean my clubs. We can cover our faces with them. I went back to the trunk and got both golf towels. I suggested, we could remove the rugs. It won't do much, but it might help. That's what we did. Everyone took one mat from the front and back. We threw them over ourselves, then covered our faces with small towels. It really helped. We closed our eyes and rested. When I woke up, I realized that I had slept for 2 hours. Tatiana was still purring, what women call their snoring. Instead of waking her up, I teased the horn with an sauce signal of 3 short, 3 long, and 3 short blasts. Tatiana quietly repeated, "Please, please, please." We were silent for a minute, and then we heard it stupid. I repeated the sauce signal. Then, eureka, their probe hit my car. I pressed the horn and didn't let go until the probe hit the car again. We will be saved. Soon, several probes began touching the machine. For each, I was rewarded with a signal. Even when you know that you will be rescued, the longer it takes, the more anxiety there is. What's taking so long? Tatiana pressed herself against me as I leaned over in the driver's seat. Periodically, another probe would hit the car. Then we heard voices, almost there. Hold on. The sound of metal on metal has never felt so good. I pressed the horn again. The miner's light broke through the snow. An elderly man, wrapped up, smiled at us. He cleared the snow from the driver's door. I tried to open the door, but there was too much snow to move it. A few more minutes of clearing, and the door began to open. The sound of him shoveling against the door was replaced by the door opening 6 inches. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're welcome, the man replied. Helping me and then Tatiana get to the surface, we were met by darkness. About 20 people with burning miners' lamps stood nearby. They covered us with blankets, offered us a bottle of water, and then strapped us into the sled. Is the house still standing? Which house? My heart sank. We were at the house at 24269 Pine Way. There were 2 other people there. He repeated my information into his microphone. After some negotiations, he approached again. We haven't found that cabin yet. It's too dark right now, but we'll be back in the morning. Let's get you to the hospital. You were under almost 15 feet of snow. We detected your car horn this afternoon, so we worked until night. Ready? Tatiana clung to me, hugging my waist, and we were taken on a sleigh to the ambulance. After a warm ride, we found ourselves in the waiting room, attracting a lot of attention. I needed 2 stitches above my right eyebrow. That was all our injuries were limited to. We were well hydrated. There were no signs of critical hypothermia. However, we spent the night in the hospital receiving fluids and slowly getting our body temperature back to normal. In the morning, Tatiana was released first, but she waited for me. I talked to the rescuers. They found the house, and there are signs of life. My heart began to sing. I picked up Tatiana and spun her around. Yes. Lowering it, she kissed me on the cheek. Thank you. For what? For being a real gentleman. You were so calm. I don't know if I could have done it alone. With Steve, it would have been different. He would have gone completely mad. Thank you again. You're welcome, and thank you. You stayed calm, which only helped me. Who's in charge? I found him in the cafeteria. Apparently, they set up a command center there. Let's go. The next 2 hours were unbearable. No news from rescuers. Around 12:30, we received the news. From the main one, there are two alive. We need to bring in heavy equipment since the walls of the house have collapsed. It seems that they were lucky to be in a place that was not completely destroyed. Any idea how long the rescue will take? It's too early to tell. I was over the moon. Both are alive. Please don't do any more harm with your bulldozers. Then more waiting. A couple of hours later, we heard an update. Both rescued. They'll be here in half an hour. My eyes started to fog up. Thank you. Tatiana and I hugged. My phone was ringing off the hook with calls from relatives. No one knew that we went skiing and did not connect the avalanche with our trip. Now everyone was in a panic. I met the stretcher with Jeanette, and Tatiana did the same with Steve. Both were tearful reunions. We were not allowed into their chambers until dinner. For the first 10 minutes, we just hugged and whispered, "I love you." "Hi, honey. How was your weekend?" "A lot of snow. Do you have it?" "Now that you mention it, yes, there were a few snowflakes." Her giggles were music to my ears. Her kisses were warm and her hugs divine. Tatiana and I managed to jump into my car before the impact. "How did you survive?" "Pure luck. We heard a loud roar and then a boom, and everything started to collapse. We had just put things in the kitchen when it happened. I thought I was going to die, but when the noise died down, I realized that I survived. It was dark, and I heard Steve groan. We had about 3 feet of space. We were in a space about 10 by 20 feet. That's really lucky. Did you have food or blankets?" "A couple of apples and a rug. I thought we would starve if we didn't freeze. All we had were parkas and this rug." "Any injuries?" "I have a lot of little cuts and scrapes. Steve's ankle was badly sprained." "How long will they keep you?" "At least one more night. Our body temperatures were dangerously low. One nurse said she didn't think we'd survive another night." I kissed and hugged Jeanette. Visitors were asked to leave. "Well, get some sleep. I'll go home and get your car. I'll get you some clean clothes." Jeanette nodded, but then, almost in a panic, she begged, "Dale, just leave them. I don't want to be reminded of this. I'll throw them away." Her hands reached for the bag I was holding. "Really, Jeanette, it's not a problem. You'll never remember that these were the same things. They're almost new. I can handle it. Dale, just give them to me. Please. Get a good night's sleep. See you in the morning." "Dale, give me the damn bag." "Jeanette, you're on edge. Good night. See you in the morning." If she could have stood up, she would have rushed at me. Strange. I thought that if I was asked to leave, then Tatiana would also have to leave. I was waiting for her. Of course, the elevator took her down into the hall. "How is he?" "Big baby. He has no tolerance for surprises. How's Jeanette?" "Seems normal. She panicked when I said I'd take her things home. She just wanted to throw them away to erase the ordeal from her memory." Different people, different habits. Strange. Almost like she didn't want me to see them. I agree. Do you? What am I? Left my clothes. No, it's here, in the bag. Can. Tatiana looked in. Her face immediately changed. Her eyes became wild. That bastard, they had sex. Look at her pants. They're still wet. There's a lot more than one time here. I'll kill him. Tatiana threw her bag and ran to the stairs. The door slammed behind her. I stood there at a loss. How could she? She doesn't look like it was against her will. I sat down on a chair. My heart broke and my eyes filled with tears. I started to feel angry. 10 minutes later, security brought Tatiana back into the hall. One of the guards stood about 10 feet away and warned her to behave or he would kick her out. He said they thought they were going to die. He didn't say how many times. He said several. We thought we were going to die and we didn't have sex. What the hell? I wanted to break something. I've never been so angry. After standing in silence for a minute, tears began to slowly flow down our cheeks. My phone vibrated. I checked the message. My car is already arriving. You can drive to my house and I'll take you home. Okay, she answered quietly through her tears. The hour-long drive was difficult. We both suffered. When I stopped at her house, Tatiana leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. Hang in there, Dale. And you, Tatiana, thank you for an unforgettable weekend. She smiled through her tears. I will always remember him. My trip home was sad. My feelings were mixed. Kill her, hug her, leave her, forgive her, and finally ask her why. Sleep did not come easily. This morning I woke up wondering what the day was like. My phone showed that today is Monday. Damn, I have to be at work in 30 minutes. After grabbing some takeaway food, I stopped by the office. After explaining the weekend, I was given the day off for today and tomorrow. I am back. While looking through Jeanette's clothes, I picked up a few tracksuits and matching underwear. Then my rage took over. Damn bitch. I went looking again. Last Halloween, she wore a sexy dancer costume. I found it and a lace thong. Taking her 4-inch heels, I told the walls, let her take this home. Since her drawers were open, I decided to move her things to the guest room. She will be able to figure out how to arrange things to make a sofa bed. Back in our bedroom, I gathered up the obvious feminine toiletries, filled the trash can, and placed it with her clothes. It took me a while to work up the courage to enter Jeanette's room. Her parents and sisters surrounded her with care. Jeanette's eyes were red and puffy. I wasn't sure why. After hugging and kissing my relatives, I stared at Jeanette. Good morning. The desire to strangle her lost to the desire to hug her. Is this all I get? I simply nodded. She knew that I knew. Her lower lip trembled. Are they releasing you today? I think so. I respond well to Yves and warm blankets. Even though their food tastes terrible, I can't get enough. Looking at her made Jeanette feel uncomfortable. She couldn't maintain eye contact for more than a second. I'm going to go get some coffee. Does anyone else need anything? I'll go with you, son, said Jeanette's father, Fred. When we were in the cafeteria, he looked into my eyes. What's going on, Dale? I thought that after everything you've been through, you and Jeanette would be inseparable. Fred, I'll just say that things aren't all rosy in our house. I'll let Jeanette tell her side of the story. Sounds bad. That's it. I don't know what I'll do. We brought a tray with cups of coffee and donuts into the room. Jeanette wiped away her tears. After the tray was empty, Fred gathered his group and left. Before we could talk, the doctor came in and told Jeanette that she could start getting ready as she was being discharged. Jeanette took the bag of clothes I brought and went to the bathroom. It didn't take long. Do you want me to wear this? If you act like a prostitute, dress accordingly. I thought we agreed that we wouldn't have sex until Monday. We also made vows that were ruined by the avalanche. Her face darkened, and she sank back into the bathroom. She cried for half an hour. Jeanette was wearing a suit when she came out. With a trembling voice, "Are you satisfied now?" "Not at all. Let's go." A nurse came with a wheelchair. The expression on her face was full of amazement. I went out to drive the car to the exit. Everyone looked at Jeanette as she climbed out of the wheelchair and walked towards the passenger door. I didn't bother going out to help her. The silence lasted about 5 minutes. We thought we were going to die, Dale. So did we, but we didn't have sex like rabbits. This brought tears again, even more silence. What will happen now? Your things are in the guest room. The rest of the way, only her quiet sobs could be heard. As we pulled up to our house, she summoned the courage to whisper, "I'm sorry." And I'm sorry. With my car destroyed by the avalanche, I began the process of getting insurance. After booking a ride to the car rental place, I rented a temporary car. On the way home, I realized that I didn't want to be around Jeanette. I sent her a message, "Don't wait for me, I'll come someday." Her response was quick, "Please come home, Dale. We can't solve anything if we don't talk." Too early. I spent the evening at a sports bar watching college basketball and NHL hockey. Cheating husbands seemed to give off a special smell. A few hours later, my waitress asked if I was recovering from my wife's infidelity. She warned that alcohol would not help solve my problems. I agreed. Jeanette was waiting for me when I arrived around 1:30 am. I was worried about you. My drunken response was something like, I didn't care about you. Pushing away her attempts to hug and kiss me, I closed the door to my bedroom and collapsed in the middle of the bed. That's where I found myself when my bladder made itself known. It was almost 10 am. Jeanette left a note saying she was at work and that she loved me. I couldn't stay at home because there were too many good memories there, which only increased my rage. After getting dressed for work, I arrived at the office around noon and worked until 9 in the evening. Are you coming home today? Can I make dinner? Too early. After stopping to eat, I returned around 10 p.m. I had to work in the morning and couldn't afford a hangover. Jeanette lay curled up on the sofa. For the first time since Monday, her eyes weren't red and puffy. We need to talk. Please don't push me away. What can I talk about? You thought you were going to die and decided to have sex to the death. You do not understand. What don't I understand? Tatiana and I talked for a long time about death. Our communication was verbal, not sexual. We had the same fears as you. Will we freeze to death? Will we die of hunger? Will our skeletons be found in the spring? When will the snow melt? But unlike you, we were still wondering if you survived. How were your fears different? Tears appeared again. They weren't different. We were talking about you. And then you decided we were probably dead. Let's have sex. Dale, no, it wasn't like that. So why? I don't know. I guess I was weak and scared. I'm not as strong as you. Are you going to divorce me? I don't want a divorce. I really don't know. My skin gets goosebumps whenever I'm around you. The pain of betrayal is still too strong. Can I at least get a hug? Opening her arms, Jeanette didn't hesitate to pull me close to her. Her sobs lasted several minutes before our embrace stopped. Good night, Jeanette. See you tomorrow. Good night, Dale. I love you. This was my first experience with betrayal. If I had gone through this once or twice in school or college, I would have known what would happen tomorrow. But now I wasn't sure. I just couldn't understand how love gave way to lust. We lived in opposition for the next few weeks. I would really like to have Tatiana's phone number. Is she divorcing Steve? If so, will she move? Have you spoken to Tatiana? Not since she burst into my room on Monday morning. She forbade me to ever contact her again. Her words were harsh and rude. She praised you for being a gentleman and her hero. She said that you knew. That's why I cried when you came. Did you tell your parents? Fred immediately became suspicious. Not really. I hope we can overcome this. But the way things are going, it's unlikely, right? I thought our love was burning bright, but you put it out. I just don't feel special around you. Something inside of me died. Let's see how this month goes, and then I'll decide. Jeanette's eyes sparkled with tears. My soul was dead. I didn't feel anything. 4 more weeks, and I was still emotionally dead around Jeanette. Jeanette, where do we stand? Can you give me one reason why we shouldn't break up? Because you're giving up on us. I did something I'll regret for the rest of my life, but it wasn't planned. It just happened. Bullshit. Nothing happens for nothing. It happened because you wanted it to. Jeanette was very annoyed. That's not true. Damn, what if you and Tatiana had sex too? Remaining as calm as he could. So, this is the game you want to play, okay? How long have you been lovers? It must have been great to be with Steve again, huh? Maybe this is the first time with Steve, but I wonder how long it's been. Jeanette curled into a ball, tucking her knees to her chest. Each of my accusations was like a slap in the face. I continued, did you use our bedroom or just some motels? Whatever you did, you managed to keep me in the dark. There, are you happy now? I'm sorry, Dale. I shouldn't have said that. There are no others. There never were others. It was just a terrible decision on my part, and only when we were trapped. Please, can we try to get through this? I'll tell you one thing, Jeanette. You just sealed our fate. I wanted a woman who was strong enough to resist. Now I know that you will always consider me a cheater, of which I am innocent. And I will always wonder, will you find any other circumstances to change again? I'm too young for such a life. Oh God, no. Please, Dale, I don't want to lose you. Jeanette, I have to move on. Although my skin no longer breaks out in goosebumps when I'm around you, the only thing that remains is the pain. Could you please stick the knife deeper into my heart? I'll tell my lawyer to file for divorce. It will be handed to you here. There is no need to advertise it. Jeanette's eyes filled with tears and her voice shook. I'm so sorry, Dale. I'm so sorry. I won't argue. What will happen to our house? I think we should sell it. I don't want it, and I doubt you can afford it. With a sobbing response, okay? 2 days later, Jeanette was served with divorce papers at home. Everything was fair, since we had little to share. I had to pay a nominal amount of child support for 2 years. Since the divorce was uncontested, it was approved in less than 90 days. Jeanette tried hard to convince me to change my mind, but I couldn't, and maybe I didn't want to. I moved shortly after applying. As predicted, Jeanette couldn't afford the mortgage, and the house was sold. We divided the small remaining amount in half. Jeanette initially moved in with her parents. A few months later, she moved, but I don't know where. When I think about her, I just get angry and sad again. Revenge on Steve was tempting, but he wasn't worth it. If he's smart, he'll avoid me because I might change my mind about revenge. While the divorce was in progress, I devoted my evenings and weekends to completing my master's degree. Some of my old friends tried to find me new girlfriends. Even though I went on a few dates, I was still emotionally dead. The thought of starting a new relationship did not bring joy. Is this really what lies ahead for me? Although I wanted someone to share my joy, only my family members were present at the graduation ceremony. 5 months have passed since the avalanche occurred. After attending several exclusive job fairs, I received 2 very attractive job offers. I loved my current job, but they really couldn't compete with those offers. That's what they said when I shared these suggestions with them. I accepted a job offer on the West Coast, near Palo Alto. My things fit comfortably in the car. My new apartment was no less lonely than the previous one, but not better either. I needed to start a personal life that included women. Many nights I just stared at the turned-off TV in my apartment. I no longer knew what I wanted from life. One of those nights, I remembered all those text messages we wrote when we thought we were going to die. Reading them warmed my soul. Telling those you love how important they are to you was inspiring. I decided that I needed to start living as a single person. It was like spying or reading someone's diary. One by one, I read the messages that Tatiana composed. She was much more talented in writing. When I read her mother's message, my heart began to beat faster. At the very end, I may not have married the man of my dreams, but at least I will die in his arms. Jeanette is so lucky. I was on a mission. I needed to find a way to contact Tatiana. Jeanette's phone number no longer worked. I decided it would be cruel to ask her. Remembering my conversations with Tatiana while they were waiting for rescue, I thought that I knew in which city her parents lived. One of the photo albums I took contained photos of our wedding and information. This gave me Tatiana's maiden name. It didn't take long to find her parents. I left a message for her mother so that Tatiana would call me back. When Tatiana didn't call back right away, my heart began to beat with anxiety again until the next week arrived. Dale. Tatiana, is it really you? How are you? Oh, Dale, I'm so glad you called. I've missed you so much. I'm doing great. What's new with you? Well, let's see. I finally got my master's degree and accepted a job offer on the West Coast. I've only been here a month. Is Jeanette with you? No, I just couldn't get over it. We got divorced a few months ago. What about you? Still with Steve? No, same as you. We lived together for a couple of months, but it was too much for me. God, I'm so glad you called. What prompted you to do this? Last week, I had another regretful night and found those text messages we wrote when we thought we were going to die. Reading them made me feel better. Wow, I completely forgot about them. Oops, I guess you read mine too. The man of your dreams, huh? I never knew. She was my best friend. Best friends never let things like that get out. And you didn't call back right away because I was on the road and my mom didn't think it was worth bothering me with your message. You told her it wasn't urgent. It was. So, where is home now? Chicago. You said West Coast. Where exactly? Palo Alto. We have an office in San Jose. How close is that? Palo Alto is about 20 miles from San Jose, which is the airport I usually use. Maybe I'll try to convince the boss to let me visit that office. Or I should think about going to the Windy City. Seriously, Dale, it would be so great to see you. I didn't have anything planned for this weekend. I know exactly where O'Hara is, so I can meet you. How about I check flights for Friday night? Can you find a place for me to stay? Yeah, I'll work on it. Well, I don't want any problems with your boyfriends. I'll deal with them. Are you sure your girls will let you leave without them? Like you, I'll deal with them. If it gets really bad, I'll take a couple with me. Great idea. They can entertain my boyfriends while we play checkers. I love your sense of humor, Tatiana. And that's one of the many things I love about you, Dale. We talked for another hour and a half. It was so nice to hear her voice again. So many good memories came flooding back. It was hard for me not to think about Jeanette, but I managed. On Friday, I went to work early and left around 11 a.m. After boarding the 1:45 p.m. flight to Chicago, I was back on terra firma around 8 p.m. With only hand luggage, I sent Tatiana a message that I was heading to the passenger boarding area. Dale, over here. I picked Tatiana up and spun her around as I hugged her. It was the warmest kiss I've received this year. Glad you could come. Hungry? Yes, it's worth eating. Take me to your favorite place. Later. I have other plans for you, she said with a twinkle in her eye. Won't it hurt? Only if you resist. I'm not going to refuse. Once inside Tatiana's apartment, she threw herself into my arms. Kiss me. My hands wandered, but much more slowly than Tatiana. Pushing me away, she sexually took off my coat and shirt. Your turn. I took off her blouse, unbuttoning it from the bottom up. We had a very stormy night. After cleaning, we fell asleep under the blanket. I heard the water running in the shower as the sunlight warmed my face. Standing naked, drying her hair with a towel, Tatiana greeted me. Good morning, lover. Did you enjoy last night? Very. Was it a dream or reality? For me, it was both. You lasted much longer in my dreams. I stuck my tongue out at her. Get your ass out of bed. We have a full day. It was a wonderful weekend. We parted on Sunday night with tentative plans that Tatiana would fly to San Jose in 2 weeks. When it was my turn to entertain, I realized that I was falling in love with Tatiana. Her face as we broke up told me that she might feel the same way. I received confirmation in the middle of the week. Good evening, Tatiana. How are things going this week? Very good, Dale. That's why I'm calling you. There's an opening in our San Jose office. And I tested her, and I'm qualified. And I have strong feelings for you, but if you don't feel the same, I will refuse the offer. Would it help you make a decision if I said, I think I'm falling in love with you? Yeah. Yes, this will help, or yes, will you consider the job offer? Smart guy. Yes, I love you, and I will accept the offer. We talked for another hour. I was tasked with finding a suitable apartment so that we could live together. Tatiana traveled a couple of times a month, so her office, the airport, and my office had to be within reasonable proximity of each other. As soon as she was hired, her things were packed. It's only been 6 weeks since she called me back. They say life moves at the speed of an avalanche. We moved slowly. Both of us still had deep-seated anxieties about the relationship. Although we had a few fights, we always made sure to kiss and hug each other before going to bed. I work with a lot of young women, which worries Tatiana. She travels with men, which worries me. After 10 months of living together, we realized that we needed to come to an agreement. I remembered telling Jeanette that I wanted women who could resist. I'm sorry, Tatiana, I was a fool. If you were able to keep your vows while trapped with the man of your dreams, then I have nothing to fear when you're on the road. I don't trust men, so please avoid situations that put you under threat. Listen, Dale, I was being unfairly petty about you working with these women. You proved to me during the avalanche that you can be trusted. I may not trust the women you work with, but I'm sure I can trust you. We were silent, looking at each other, then I got down on one knee. I don't have a ring or anything since it happened unexpectedly, but would you like to die in the arms of the man of your dreams? Pushing me onto my back, pressing his chest against me. Yes, I would like to. Will I die quickly, or what are you planning? A very slow death, 50 or 60 years of suffering. Sign me up. We had a small wedding ceremony in San Jose and then went on our honeymoon to a place where there was no snow. We've never skied again and don't want to. Our careers became our children, but 8 years later our family was expanded when Sarah was born. She looks like her mother. Her sister Maggie arrived 2 years later, and she will have to work hard as she is more like me. Thanks to social media, we learned that Steve had remarried and became a father. We also learned that Jeanette moved to Maryland and has 2 children. Neither Steve nor Jeanette tried to contact us, and neither did we. This relationship was buried under an avalanche.